everyone, and welcome to another episode of BTP. We are breaking the plane here, brought to you by Inside the Pylon. I am your host, Nicholas Filato, and we are here to talk about today's trade. That is, of course, the New York Football Giants sending Jason Pierre-Paul to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to help bolster their pass rush, which they have done a solid job of doing so far. This is a win-win trade for both the Buccaneers and the New York Giants. First, for the New York Giants' sake, yes, Jason Pierre-Paul has been around since 2010, and he had some fantastic seasons with the New York Football Giants. We'll always be grateful for the blocked kick against the Dallas Cowboys that ascended the New York Giants into the playoffs in 2011, which led to the Lombardi Trophy. And he had 16.5 sacks that year. Looked like he was going to be the next big pass rusher in the league. But since then, he struggled to keep his weight under control. His conditioning was subpar. Tom Coughlin criticized him for that. Then the obvious hand situation, lost his hand, came back from that pretty valiantly. And you know what? I will always say about Jason Pierre-Paul, he's a much better run defender than I believe he gets credit for. Not a lot of people talk about his run defending. I think he's very, very sound in that area of his game. I watch every Giant game intently, go back to NFL Game Pass, and then I watch it again. I really break down what I see from the New York Football Giants, and that is one thing that I have picked up when it comes to Jason Pierre-Paul. But his sack numbers are sort of misleading. Now, 8.5 sacks this past season, 7 in 2016. That's not anything that's going to break the bank, even though it kind of did when it came to Jerry Reese really trying to lock it up, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But the 7 sacks back in 2016, 3 of them came against Cleveland, and 2.5 of them came against Chicago. And the 8.5 sacks this past season, 2 of them came against Washington, and 3 of them came against Denver. Washington offensive line was incredibly beat up. Trent Williams was dealing with injuries the entire year. Denver, I think they had Menelik Watson starting, Donald Stevenson possibly, but he was taking advantage of much inferior competition. There's been plenty of times where Jason Pierre-Paul has not come through in the most dire situations, especially against competition that fits his. Good quality starters in the league. And when you think about the contract that he was given, 4 years, $62 million extension, just last year, you can understand what Jerry Reese was thinking. Look, this defense is 11-5, and they carried a subpar offense to the wild card round where they lost to Aaron Rodgers. We need to try to keep this defense intact with Olivier Vernon, Damon Snacks Harrison, Janoris Jenkins. So let's give JPP, who's been around for a while, this contract. And that was his mindset. He doesn't play up to a $62 million contract, in my opinion, and in most Giants fans' opinion, especially the ones who really watch the game. But he gets the contract, and this year just goes absolutely awry. Everything goes wrong for the New York Football Giants. Go 3-13, and you're looking at this contract on the books, and you look down the road and you say, damn it. Damn it. How are we going to pay Odell Beckham Jr.? How are we going to pay Landon Collins with the cap number that JPP has and the cap number that Eli Manning has? And the Giants find a way out of it. The Giants find a way to trade him. Now, trading him is much better than cutting him, because if you cut him, it was going to hit about around $5 million against the cap if you just cut up JPP. But finding a trading partner for him frees up $17.5 million on next year's cap. In 2019. Now, it only freed up about $3 million, a little bit less this year. But next year and the year after, it frees up a significant amount of money. And when we look at the free agents of the New York Giants that need to get paid, 2 in particular, Odell Beckham Jr. and Landon Collins, both are going to be looking for big contracts next offseason. And then you even look at somebody, to a much lesser extent, but Brett Jones, who was just offered a second-round tender, guy came over from the CFL. He's a very good pass protector, needs a little bit of work in the run game, but he's a 26-year-old center who might be looking for a decent contract if he plays up to the level that he played last year in spot start duty over Weston Richburg, who just signed with the 49ers. So the Giants needed to find a way out of this cap hell that Jerry Reese put them in. And they did, by trading him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a very good move for the future of the New York Giants, especially in the next couple of seasons. And by all indication, the new regime feels Eli can play a couple more years, and that's going to lead to a lot of questions about this upcoming draft pick. But before we dive into that, I want to just discuss how this is intriguing to Giant fans because during the Jerry Reese tenure, they were very, very hesitant to trade. The only big trades that are really coming to my mind are the Giants trading up in the second round to get Landon Collins. But other than that, they were all late day 3 draft picks for some veteran players, just things along those lines. Nothing that was going to be groundbreaking, and it really hurt the Giants during the draft. The immobility, and we've spoken about this on this podcast before, of Jerry Reese. But Dave Gettlemen comes in and he really has his foot on the gas, and it's something that the Giants needed because the cap situation was absolutely gross. And we see him be much more aggressive, going out trading Jason Pierre-Paul, getting rid of that contract, trading for Alec Ogletree and restructuring that contract. Because Jerry Reese neglected that linebacker position time and time again. And when you look at the Giants' depth chart right now, they still need linebacker help, and they're going to have to address it in the draft. Because you're going to run this 3-4 base defense. You're going to need 4 competent linebackers. And right now, you're looking at B.J. Goodson, and you're looking at Alec Ogletree. And outside of that, you have young Calvin Munson from last year, Mark Herzlich, who's a special teamer, Ray Armstrong. And you're losing Jonathan Casillas, Akeem Ayers, Keenan Robinson, and Kelvin Shepard to free agency. More than likely, unless they bring some of them back. So the Giants are in some dire positions to add some quality pieces here. Because they need to. When you go through these Jerry Reese drafts, go back to 2008, and from 2008 to 2014, there is one freaking player that is on the roster right now from those drafts. And that one player is Odell Beckham Jr. And Odell Beckham Jr. is great, but when you think about all of those drafts, I'd be hard-pressed to say there's another team that is in that bad of a situation that every player from 2008 to 2014 that was drafted is no longer with the team they were drafted for outside of Odell Beckham Jr. That is just gross. Absolutely disgusting. But it's reality. And some of those picks, it just was really, really bad luck. David Wilson, the spinal stenosis, Chad Jones, and everything that happened with him and his leg in the car accident. Not Jerry Reese. That's not on Jerry Reese. But there were so many swings and so many misses, and it put Dave Gettlemen in a very, very precarious situation. And he's finding ways to improve this roster right now and make this team competitive, a team that is 1 year removed from an 11-5 season, while planning for the future and getting rid of big contracts like Jason Pierre-Paul's, because he does not play up to that contract. But again, that opens up a hole right now because we were relying on Pierre-Paul to start in James Betcher's defense. And I know a lot of people are saying he's not a natural fit, but let us not forget that Arizona was the team that was heavily pursuing Jason Pierre-Paul in free agency. But he decided to come back with the Giants. And if you really, really want to just get sick right now and puke, outside the 2017 and the 2016 drafts, so the last 2 drafts, there are 4 players on the roster that were drafted by the New York Football Giants. That is Eric Flowers, Landon Collins, Odell Beckham Jr., and Zach Dialsi, because Eli Manning was technically drafted by the Chargers. But if you wanted to throw him in there, that's 5, and that's still absolutely sickening. So this team, the New York Giants, the team that Dave Gettlemen inherited, had so many issues with depth, with the cap, with the culture of the team. So when I see Giant fans jumping the gun and just absolutely bashing Gettlemen before he really has a chance to do anything, cool your jets. Cool down. Just cool down a little bit. Provide a little bit of context into how bad this situation was. And I know they went 11-5 2 years ago. Went to the playoffs as a wild card team. That's great. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a farce, but a lot of things. And you watch the games, Giant fans. A lot of things went the Giants' ways. They were opportunistic on defense. Took advantage of a couple poor plays that swung games in their direction. But their offense under Ben McAdoo was atrocious, and we knew that. They relied on hitting the slant to Odell Beckham, and hopefully Odell Beckham would outrun the entire defense. And you know what? Odell's good enough to do it. And he's going to be looking to get paid. And this JPP deal, this will help him get paid. Hopefully stay as a New York Giant. Build around potentially a new quarterback. Who knows? We're going to dive into the draft. Another thing we're going to miss, though, about JPP, and Olivier Vernon provides this as well on the other side. JPP plays 90% of the snaps when he's healthy. He's out there constantly. When the Giants went to the playoffs 2 years ago, he was out there constantly. And that is now gone. And yes, the New York Giants have added a couple pieces that can play edge, can play linebacker, can play 5 technique. Guys like Kareem Martin from Arizona. James Bettcher also brought over Josh Morrow, who was more someone who could play that 5 technique role in the 34 defense. Robert Thomas gets brought back to help be the nose behind Snacks. You still have Kerry Wynn. Obviously, Dalvin Tomlinson. But you got to look at the roster. There's just a couple depth pieces here for this front line of the defense with Avery Moss, who was drafted last year at Youngstown State, Romeo Okwara. Solid, but none of those guys are going to replace JPP. So the Giants are sitting here at 2 right now, and by all accounts, it seems like the Browns are going to go Sam Darnold. Jimmy Haslam was at his pro day. It seems like the general consensus. Now, things can change. We're still a month away from the NFL draft, so a lot of things can change. But a hole has just been opened up opposite of Olivier Vernon with the departure of Jason Pierre-Paul. And Bradley Chubb, very highly regarded edge player coming out of North Carolina State, somebody who everybody was enamored with throughout this draft process. I feel like now, since the combine, he didn't post a 3-cone that we all expected, some people are backing off a little bit on Chubb. I still think he's going to be a Pro Bowl talent in this league. He has that initial quickness off the snap, his ability to keying, diagnose the play, uses his hands well, great lateral agility, things of that nature. Now, some might need to get a little bit stronger, taking on blocks, especially laterally, angled blocks, things like that, but that will come with time. He also doesn't really have a natural bull rush, but he's still going to be a Pro Bowl type player. Do the Giants sit there at 2 and take this guy who can play with his hand in the dirt, who can play from a 2-point stance, can play outside linebacker on a 34, can play 4-3 end if they want to run multiple fronts under James Bettcher. So he fits the system that Bettcher likes to run, and he can definitely bring the pressure, blitz, do whatever you need him to do. Just come off the edge. The Giants now have a gaping need at edge. Bradley Chubb's going to be there at 2. Do you trade back? That's what I still think the Giants should do, is either take the quarterback or trade back. One thing I don't think they should do is take Saquon Barkley. That just doesn't make sense to me right now. Yes, they have 6 picks now. They upgraded by 1 by acquiring this 3rd-round pick from the Buccaneers, which I love, because they need as many picks as possible to help replenish the dearth of talent that's on this roster. And with teams like the Jets trading up to 3, they're going after the quarterback. I've saw reports that they're going after Saquon. That's absolutely ridiculous. You don't trade 3 second-round picks to jump up 3 spots to go after a freaking running back, especially a running back who might even be there in the draft. So they have a quarterback in mind. Now, do the Giants have their quarterback in mind and didn't want to move when the Jets contacted them, or are they waiting to see what the Browns do, more than likely go with Sam Darnold, and then literally, with all the leverage in their hand, sit there and say, so, Bills, Dolphins, your division rival, New York Jets, have the 3rd pick. And they might be going after the quarterback that you love, whether it be Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, or even Josh Allen, if they're into that. Why don't you come up and get it? And then get a king's ransom. Drop back to 12, drop back to 11, drop to 15 for the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals are probably the worst team in the NFC right now when it comes to just depth on their roster. The Giants had a worse record, but to me personally, I don't think the Giants are a 3-13 team. I think there's a lot of work that needs to happen with this roster, but they still have some quality pieces to build around. And by trading JPP, now they can pay those quality pieces. But I look over at all those teams that need quarterbacks, the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, the Arizona Cardinals. Sam Darnold's off the board, and one of those teams can now jump, even the Denver Broncos, over the Jets to the Giants. The Giants have all the leverage in the world. That's why I like the fact that they're playing this waiting game right now. I like the fact that, if the Jets did come in with the 3 second-round picks, the value of that 2nd overall pick is only going to go up as the draft gets closer. So sit and wait. Either get a king's ransom or get the quarterback that you love. If they are in love with Josh Rosen, go and get that quarterback. You're not going to be picking in the top 3 too often. And I know that's the plan of Dave Gettlemen. Because he said in his press conference, his plan is to come in there and kick ass until they take his keycad or the Lord calls him home. So he's not planning on this rebuild. And he's shown that by the moves that he's made. He's brought in veteran talent to help pair with a quarterback that is aging. And now, with the top 3 pick and all these quarterbacks that everybody loves, if they're not in love with the quarterback, king's ransom. King's freaking ransom. And replenish this roster. If they're in love with the quarterback, get the quarterback. We're all happy. So I like everything that Dave Gettlemen has done to help this poor roster, this poor situation, this cap hell. Getting rid of JPP was one of the biggest things they could have done. By not cutting him, you save more money. You trade him to Tampa Bay, who can really use a player like Jason Pierre-Paul to pair with Vinny Curry now and Noah Spence. Gerald McCoy, Bo Allen on that front line that was really, really bad against the run and at rushing the passer last year. It improves the overall effectiveness of Mike Smith's defense. Win-win trade for both teams. Sometimes that does not happen in the NFL. Now Bradley Chubb is in play at 2. But a lot of things are in play at 2. I would say the Giants have the most intriguing pick in the draft. Especially if the Browns are going with Sam Darnold, because that's something that a lot of people are already speculating upon. So the Giants kind of hold all the cards right now in the draft. All the keys that will unlock all the other situations. What will they do? If they go quarterback, that's going to elicit an effect on so many other teams. If they just go with guard, if they trade back, it changes the entire outlook of the draft. So what are the Giants doing is one of the biggest questions of the draft. And who would have thought that would have been the case if we were to go back before the 2017 season? But things happen in the NFL. Things change. And we saw the McAdoo era just get flushed right down the toilet. And they're trying to rebuild this roster with a new regime, 2 successful coordinators in head coach Pat Shurmur, who was very, very successful with Minnesota and Case Keenum, and a defensive coordinator, James Bettcher, handling the defense. Bring in Mike Shula as well to help Shurmur with the offense. I like the direction the Giants are going in, but there's still so much work that needs to be done. And I said that after the Alec Ogletree trade. I said so many more moves are going to have to happen to help improve this cap situation. And moving JPP significantly helps it. But I still don't think the Giants are done. They're probably waiting for Dwayne Harris and Brendan Marshall to pass a physical. I'm not 100% sure how or if they can pass a physical or if they can't pass a physical right now. But I would imagine if they could, they would cut him so they don't have to pay him that injury settlement. That's something else that is probably a reason why they're still on the roster. But again, I'm not in the building. I don't know for a fact. It's just speculation at this point. But we got to wait, see how this draft unfolds. If the Giants go Saquon Barkley at number 2, that would be very disappointing. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to be an excellent Pro Bowl running back in this league. But with the way the Giants roster is constructed and the leverage the number 2 pick holds, you cannot do that. You cannot. To me, it's quarterback, trade back, but you have to weigh in Bradley Chubb right here. You have to weigh in best player available with Quentin Nelson as well. But you just got to think about how much leverage that number 2 pick has and all the holes on this roster. You need depth. Again, 4 players drafted outside the last 2 drafts by the Giants are still on the roster because Eli Manning wasn't drafted either. You need to take that into context because it has not been good. In Tampa, good for you guys to help replenish your defense that has lacked the last few seasons. And the Giants will continue to hold all the cards for this draft, all the leverage for that pick, and hopefully get King's ransom. We will see. So, on to the last segment of the show, and that is, of course, the fact of the day. Now, this fact I came out with mostly because this trade involves the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And since the New York Rangers are effectively out of the playoff hunt this season with a down year, they trade Ryan McDonough, who was their captain for the last several seasons, to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And in the trade, the Lightning send their second-round pick. And if they win the Cup in the next 2 years, that second round pick gets bumped to a first round pick. So in honor of that, the fact of the day is the Stanley Cup has several typos engraved on it. Do elaborate, Nick. I will. The most egregious are probably the Boston Bruins being spelled as the Boston Bruins with their O's all being Q's. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are spelled the Toronto Maple Leafs. There is no F, it's an E. But a surprising number of the players' names have also been misspelled throughout the years. So that is the random fact of the day when it comes to the NHL for this one and how it links to Tampa Bay, because we need the Lightning to win the Stanley Cup in the next 2 years so the Rangers can get a first round selection. Alrighty, I am Nicholas Falato, and this has been Breaking the Plane. Follow me on Twitter at Nick Falato. That is Falato. Follow Inside the Pylon for quality content on the schematics of football at IT Pylon. I hope you enjoyed this show. You guys have a lovely, lovely day, night, evening, whatever time of day it is that you're listening to it. Just enjoy it. Take care.